Oh, look how much room there is on the card. Listener, look.
Wow.
Can you see how much room there is? We dumped the whole card because today we have Dan Riba on the podcast. Yes! Dan Riba on the podcast. It's episode 50, baby.
That is pretty cool.
It is pretty cool.
Both are cool
Both
points.
are cool things.
They're both cool things.
Dan Riba's a thing. The episode's a thing.
We're things.
We are
Yoppie dudes.
We're Yoppie dudes. I was thinking this whole time that we have been prepping for Dan Riba to come on the podcast, and he's going to hear us say things like Yoppie dudes and what? No, we're not going to do that. We're going to be saying all the inside jokes and be like, okay, so Dan, let me explain to you.
We can try to keep him to a minimum, though I think we should absolutely ask him if the episode is more books or hip hop.
Without asking questions.
No explanation.
Well, because we don't have one explanation.
And just like wait for him to say either books or hip hop, and we just don't say a word until then.
Just stare at him. What does it mean? We're just locked eyes with him. What do you guys? Welcome back to Jump on the Bat-Wagon, everyone.
I've
tried to do the thing every time, and Brian just says the whole title, so I figured this time I would say the whole title.
Do it.
Welcome back to Jump on the Bat-Wagon.
Nice.
And you say unbat after. This is the show where we watch through the entire DC animated universe from start to finish
in the controversial air date order.
To experience the shows the way human... Oh, I thought you were going to keep going.
To experience the show the way humans did
experience them in the far gone days of the 1990s. I am Brainiac. Brian here has only seen 49 episodes of the DCAU so far. It's going to be harder to track when we're in like Superman episode 3, but I have to think of it as episode 90-something of the podcast.
Math.
Yeah. That's no good. That's not going to work at all.
Dog.
Dog, click, clack.
Click, clack, doggy, dog.
Click, clack, doggy, dog. That's the name of the dog now. Canon to the podcast.
All right, Rose Dog, you've been renamed. Click, clack,
Click,
doggy,
clack,
dog.
doggy, dog. Much better name. We recommend that you watch today's DCAU episode before listening to this podcast to get the full experience out of our discussion. And please, if you send in mail or leave a comment, do not spoil anything past this episode for Brian.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't know what's going to happen. Today we are watching Zatanna, which your prediction last episode was that this was a new supervillain.
Yes.
And they were going to, what was it? They start with a Z. That was their gimmick or something.
Capital Z.
Yeah. Names start with capital letters. That's true.
Yep.
Man, they sure do, man. That's what I love about names. Start with capital letters. This aired Tuesday, February 2nd, 1993. I wrote 2003 for some reason. That's very wrong. No skipped days. No skipped days.
No skip days.
That's what threw me off. It was like, there has to be skip days. It must have been 10 years later. 4:30 p.m. on Fox. This is the 54th episode produced and the 50th to air.
Oh, I thought you were going to say 54th. I don't know why.
I wish that it lined up
Despite
like
the fact that it was the 50th episode, I thought it was going to be like, come on, 54th.
We just skipped 3 episodes for no reason. 4 episodes. I see, Matt, don't make me do math. Writer, Paul Dini, again.
Paul
Dini?
The Dean Man Eni?
Dan Riba's gonna listen back to this. Don't do stupid stuff. We gotta be in our A game today.
Jamie, this is our A game.
Yeah, right. You're right. Directed by Dick Seabast.
Are you going to say it the proper way?
Sebastian.
You got to be on your A game.
And Dan Riba. Dan Riba.
Do you have a Dan Riba button?
I'm just kidding.
It can be the clap, the applause.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll press it. Dick Seabast formerly directed Feet of Clay, Part 1, The Cat in the Claw, Part 2, Fear of Victory, Dreams in Darkness, Moon of the Wolf, and What is Reality? And this is Dan Riba's directorial debut.
I was wondering.
But he was a character designer on Heart of Ice, Feet of Clay, Part 1 and 2, and It's Never Too Late. Those are his previous credits.
Sweet.
But of course, as we know, if the listener doesn't know, Dan Riba will go on to be part of every show. What?
Spoilers.
Okay. You knew this.
Okay, I knew this.
Director, character designer, storyboard, artist, etc.
He's
on
kinda
all the
done it
shows
all, right?
except the Zeta Project.
What is the Zeta Project?
I don't even know. That's why I don't know because he wasn't involved with it.
That's right.
That's why I don't know.
This is the Dan Riba podcast.
This is music by Peter Tomaszek, the podcast.
Who
was the mechanic.
Yeah, he did music in the mechanic.
And Nerida Tyson Chu. It's hyphenated. Tyson Chu.
I've
It's
never.
like the new candy bar.
Don't know.
Only B-Test credit, but they also wrote the music for Fern Gully 2.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, wait. I like how the last episode had like Hellraiser 3 or whatever.
There was some really interesting.
Yeah. Something like a bunch of sequels. And then this continues the trend of just Fern Gully 2. But I had to check, like, were they just in the music department? Like, no, they were like the composer for Fern Gully 2, which I guess is kind of cool. But
I mean, that's awesome. I've never composed
seen
anything.
I've never seen Fern Gully 2.
No,
Have you?
either.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I saw Fern Gully.
An animation by Dong Yang for like the 4th episode in a row.
No, that's not true. We had Sunrise last episode,
You're right.
and it was awesome.
We had 3 episodes of
Dong Yang.
no. Yeah, we had Laughing Fish, and then the other 2, Harley and Ivy, and the Mechanic.
Yeah.
And then now we have again with layout by Spectrum.
Okay. I feel like I know what to expect visually.
Yeah. And we're gonna get into it with Dan. Apologies in advance to the listener. Maybe apologies. Maybe you want to listen to a lot of it, but I was gonna say I'm sure this episode will be longer than usual because we got Dan Riba, and Dan Riba like to talk. We like to talk to Dan Riba.
It's gonna be
gonna
some
happen.
talking. Are you prepare your ears for a listening?
Prepare your listens for ears.
That there could not be a stronger way for us to go out. So let's go watch that episode.
Oh wait, no, we decided dozens of episodes ago to do this. And Arnold is the name of the couch.
Oh wow, that was dozens of episodes ago.
I thought you'd be finishing the tour with us.
I'm leaving for Japan tomorrow. There's still a lot I have to learn.
Boy, that's you. One big serious schoolboy. No time in your life for fun or magic. Here, pick a card. I'll tell your future. I see emotion, intensity, 2 of hearts.
Joker.
Oh, it's a dumb trick anyway.
Look, I don't know the future, but I know I'll see you again someday, Zana.
You're the only one who ever calls me Zana. I really hate it. No goodbye hug? See? It's not so bad.
I'll write you.
No, you won't.
I promise.
You can't. I locked your hands to the wall.
What?
Looks like someone's missing their plane tomorrow. But hey, if you were any kind of escape artist, you'd be out of those cuffs and through the door by now. Now you see him, now you don't.
My great-great-great-great-grandfather came over from Ireland as a McNeely. And that was at a time, it was 1908, I think, when they landed. And it was a time when, like, Irish people weren't super well regarded in New York. So he changed it to Moneely, which sounded more Italian as the family lore goes. And I found, like, 2nd and 3rd cousins who were all Moneelys because that just wasn't a name, seemingly, until then. Right. So, like, there's a pretty high probability that there is some relation, but I don't know it.
Right.
To the artist.
To the artist, yeah.
Huh. No, you should look his stuff up because it's really cool because it's
some
like
ancestry stuff or something.
Yeah. If you look at like in the '60s, they were doing a lot of reprint books with stuff from the '50s and the '70s too with the monster stuff. But so whenever they reprinted like Black Knight stories, the ones from the '50s, that those are all Manili and like So yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
That's pretty funny to like. I don't think I've heard of Joe Manili, but I've never made that connection.
What's funny, he didn't do a lot of superhero stuff.
Yeah.
That was the funny thing. I think when they brought Captain America back in the 50s, they got Romita to do those stories. Mm-hmm. But at the very first issue, I think the splash panel was by Manili.
Okay.
So it's a little different take on it. It's really kind of
Every
cool.
time you say that, I'm like, he's right here.
I know! You did this! It was you!
There can only be one!
So I guess I'll introduce you to Brian Manili.
Hey, Dan.
The live one.
Currently not hit by a train or whatever. Yeah.
It's my greatest pride.
Yeah, Brian and I met at a job a few years ago where we were both in the marketing department in a very soul-sucking environment, and we kind of gleaned onto each other as like the only rays of light in this environment. And we both discovered we have like photography hobbies and things like that. Of course, because you were the photographer and I was a videographer. Brian has helped me film my Vi-reality movie.
Oh, cool.
He's the main cameraman on that. And then started this podcast because I'm hanging out with him all the time anyway. And I figured, like, you've never seen any of these shows, so this is Brian's first time through any of these episodes.
Wow.
For whatever reason, like, I was big into Marvel. I love the X-Men cartoons in the 1990s and like all the video games, everything associated with it. And DC somehow slipped by me.
That happens to people. When I was growing up, there were people that were like either Marvel people or DC people, and I remember like a friend of mine was dating somebody who was totally into the Legion of Superheroes and Teen Titans and stuff, the old stuff, not even like later. And he's like, "Oh, well, you should look at this X-Men thing." And she's like, What's that? From this company, Marvel. What company? What?
Yeah, nowadays that seems so foreign to say. Yeah.
Well, everyone has like the Marvel Cinematic Universe exposure now.
Well, yeah, and it's unfortunate because I think a lot of my older family members, the word Marvel is synonymous with just like superhero movie. So if like a new Batman movie comes out, they're like, "Have you seen the new Marvel movie?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" "Oh, the Batman." Like, no, let me explain, please. And it's not just
funny.
a monopoly.
Yeah, that's weird.
It's becoming a monopoly
hilarious.
Slowly, but not quite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we won't get into
will.
that.
Yeah, we can't. Yeah, can of worms. Oh my goodness, what? And then what was the other thing? And then the Scooby movie. That's the heartbreaking thing.
Yeah.
Because and ironically, the person who wrote this episode that you had to watch today. It's his birthday today, Paul Dini.
Oh, hey! You're right. I forgot about that.
And he was one of the writers on that Scooby movie.
Yeah,
that got yanked.
Yeah. Well, that being said, do we want to do?
Yeah, we should probably. I
thing?
guess we have to talk about Zatanna at some point.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry. You first.
We've had these this chat conversations, Dan and I, about like, oh yeah, it's the 50th episode. It's your first directorial debut. We gotta get you on. It's gonna be a big deal. And then you're like, oh, I'm just so sorry that it's this episode. I hate this. It's bad. Blah blah blah. And like, I was expecting just now when we watched it, like, okay, I gotta look at like Brian, because I have been worried that Brian would be worried to say bad things about the episode with you
goodness.
here.
No.
But then apparently that's not going to be a problem.
Not at all.
But that's also not who
I.
I'm not really good at masking my feelings on things.
Oh, that's okay.
So like,
I get it.
I don't know. Like I'd probably try to be more polite. But the reality is, and we'll get into this, I actually liked the episode.
It wasn't bad.
Oh, that's weird. No, that's nice. You know what? Here's the deal. The voices are great. Zatanna is adorable when those shots where she's well drawn.
Yeah.
The idea of Bruce Wayne's past is really charming and fun. So there's so many cool things. Michael York as Montague Kane is really a great performance. There's a lot of really cool things. It's just that now looking at it through older eyes and knowing like how we progressed in terms of stylistically, I'm looking all at just all the paint flashes and bad camera mistakes.
But that's going to be the thing, right? And as you grow as an artist, you're going to have these things that you like. You're like, oh, I do this better and better and better, and you look back at the beginning, you say, oh, that's terrible. But this is the first time I've seen this, and I thought it was cool.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing.
You're like so proud and happy now.
I'm delighted that you're entertained. So that's good. That's because that's the bottom line is, did it entertain? And
I have an interesting comparison I'd like to ask, I think, later on. And I want you, because we have, I don't know if you've heard the podcast before, we've got James here has got like a list of things that we kind of go through in our order. So I think talking about it is a little bit later on.
Yes.
Okay,
Let's
yeah.
Just in general.
Let me, I'm a guest. You do the show.
I'll say up top is, because Brian hasn't seen, these are his first time going through all the episodes, it's like, anything post Zatanna is not to be spoken of.
No spoilers.
We do not spoil anything for Brian ever. So if it comes up and you gotta pre-think your sentences.
Good idea. What I'll do is I will just say an upcoming show, blah blah.
Sure, yeah.
And I won't name it. I'll just say I was doing this and preparing for this.
Because I kind of figure it will be hard for both. It's always hard for me to do that too, where I'm always just like, no, Brian, I know you didn't like this thing, but I promise it gets better. I promise. And we're halfway through B-Test now, and I'm still going, I promise it gets better.
Well, I can't talk about the past, but I can talk about the past.
Yes.
Okay. Because there was a lot of overlap where I'm working on one thing while two other things are happening.
Yeah.
Before, and so.
Well, and that's something that we talk about a lot too, is the air date versus the production order.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And that also I imagine for you specifically, the timeline must be a little harder to follow because of that.
Yeah.
It was also 30 years ago.
Right.
Okay, fair.
Yeah, that too. But but it is weird because one episode that's coming up, I don't believe it's aired yet, but it's one of the later ones, and it was actually like listed as 15 because that was the script.
Yeah, we have not gotten to that yet, but yeah.
Yeah, so I won't. No, it's not. I'm not even seen it yet. But
that specific episode has made me wonder sometimes when I'm reading, like, okay, this was the whatever episode produced and the whatever to air, if like even some of those are slightly wrong because of a similar situation, but I figure it's never as big of a gap as that one is. So
at least on the HBO Max airings, they seem to be in air date order to some degree.
Yeah.
So that at least that's correct.
Well, and we've kind of just been following along, trying to mentally track, like, if this was the chronological order by air date, is anything messed up? And so far, the only thing that's been weird.
A couple small things.
Yeah, there's been a couple weird, like. Basically, we've not noticed anything major in terms of, like, say the Riddler is at the table and almost got him, and then we're introduced to the Riddler later or something like that.
Yeah,
there hasn't been anything like that, but we've been keeping an eye out for, like, okay, so far if I'm a child of the 90s watching this show as it airs on Fox Kids, so far it's working out okay. So
Right.
But the first thing that we do is Brian tells us what happened in the episode in his own
Give
words.
us a synopsis.
And then I read the official Warner Brothers synopsis.
Well, now I feel pressure because I'm terrible at these anyway.
You only have Dan Riba here to listen.
No, and I just watched it 1.5 times because I saw it like on Friday and cried.
Oh.
And then I watched it again going,
we just watched The Man Who Killed Batman right before this, and we both were like almost tearing up at the Joker's loss of Batman.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that you don't get to talk about a much better episode, but anyway.
I know, right? But I'll tell you one thing about that episode, because layouts were an issue on that one. Because Bruce was directing that. And so that was one of the first episodes he had to go over layouts, because this previous episode was laid out overseas. Then he got to see the stuff that the directors were complaining about. And I hadn't really started. I was just like, I'm given a desk. Here's a storyboard that's not done yet.
Yeah.
And then here's layouts for an episode that already aired, so I can talk. Right? What is reality? Right? That the Riddler show. So that was previous, but the layouts were on my desk for that. So I'm doing two things at once, trying to fix a board and finish a board for this show. So that
I'm sure I do want to get into there must be a good story behind you taking over on Zatanna. But what happens?
No, but let's what happened though? Yeah. What happens in this show that we haven't seen yet?
Okay, so the show opens with, dear God, what does it even open on?
Magic.
That's right. Bruce and Alfred are sitting in the audience watching Zatanna.
Yeah, interchangeable. I don't know.
Wait,
some say Zatanna. I think it's Zatanna in the episode. I've said Zatanna my whole life, but who knows?
I'll go with whatever.
It's Paul Dini's birthday. You can call him up and ask him. Get Paul Dini on here.
Yeah. She's always been Zatanna, and then for
Zatanna.
some reason, we
Yeah.
I guess it sounded more
Because
like,
it's
magical.
like
interesting and foreign if it's Zatanna.
it's to me it's always made sense that it's like Anna, a girl's name, and then
Yeah.
like a spicy magician version of that name is
Exactly.
Zatanna.
To be fair, I do know an ANNA that goes by Anna.
That's wrong.
I can't say.
What is she doing though? She's in,
But I think it's like I don't think you say Zatanna, right?
Uh-huh.
But her father is who? How does his father?
oh yeah,
her father's name?
Zatara. I guess it's not Zatara.
Ooh. Okay, I'm gonna say
So that's
Zatanna
why.
then.
Okay,
Yes.
All right, so
yeah, because
Bruce-
it's
but that's also
Go
her
ahead.
last name. So her dad's John, Dan.
I know.
What a cool name he had, John. Anyway,
All right, so Bruce and Alfred are at Zatanna's magical performance. She's doing all this really rapid fire, super crazy magical stuff. And she comes to like a kind of finale thing where she's going to disappear a bank with $10 million in it. And she disappears the bank. Everyone goes, ooh, ah. And then she reappears the bank, but the $10 million is gone. And oh no, their cops show up. A cop car drives onto the stage from I don't know where, but cop car on the stage. And then she gets arrested, and Bruce says, oh no, this is bad. I'm going to fix this. Batman's up. As she's being transported to the jail, he decides to bust in through the top of the cop car paddy wagon thing.
with its like Back to the Future door.
It's got a hinge. It's got a hinge on top in case anybody wants extra ventilation or whatever. And Batman steals her away and is like, "We're gonna solve this. Come into the Batmobile with me." She's concerned she's a fugitive. She's absolutely a fugitive, but I think Batman is convinced that he's gonna solve everything.
She's Harrison Ford.
Plot twist. She's Harrison Ford. Okay, let's see. The next step is solving the crime. They go back to where she disappeared, the bank, and they find all sorts of clues. Narrowly escape getting caught again.
There's a hologram on a mirror and a bigger mirror and a hologram. Like, it was a little bit. We just watched The Mechanic, and there was just a constant slew of technobabble that didn't make any sense.
I feel like this was followable.
I guess, but it was a little bit just like, oh yeah, just there was a hologram. Okay,
Well, it's like the whole thing was a mirror, but the money was a hologram.
okay,
That was my understanding.
sure.
Anyway, so then...
Traditional hologram made via mirrors.
Yeah, sure.
A phantasm, if you will.
I won't.
Okay.
So let's see. We fast forward. Zatanna and Batman show up at the dude's whose name I can't remember.
Montague Kane.
There you go. Montague Kane's mansion. It's a trap. They get out of the trap. They find out that he's definitely on an airplane. They somehow get
Why
on the
would Batman
airplane.
know that?
I'm guessing because of all the airplane pictures around the office.
Yeah, but which one and where?
The one that the camera zoomed in on,
East.
obviously.
They went east.
They went east. So they show up on the airplane. They get the baddie. There's a cool battle on an airplane wing, and presumably Batman lands the plane. Everybody goes home and has ice cream. The end.
Yeah. There you go. Good job. Good job.
Hey!
See your applause button. I hit
That
the
was
applause
actually an
button.
easier one to sum up.
Yeah, a little bit. I'm gonna read the. This is the like official synopsis from Warner Brothers at the time. We've been reading these every episode, and a lot of them are just here's the entire episode. Like they just give away everything that happens. So this one's pretty short. I don't think you need to get the guitar. For the longer ones, Brian's got the guitar off the wall and played some background strumming. But when the glamorous magician Zatanna, whatever, is framed for a robbery during her act, Batman swings to her defense. Zatanna's Anna is grateful though a little puzzled by the Dark Knight's commitment to prove her innocence, and we learn in flashback that young Bruce Wayne met the then teenage Zatanna when he was working as an assistant to her magician father, Zatara. The two heroes unite and use the skills Zatara taught them to expose and combat an evil illusionist. I don't think that's true. He was just a guy that said, your magic's not real.
Well, no, they mentioned that he was always stealing other
Okay,
magicians'
okay.
work. So I'd say it makes him evil.
And Zatanna is cleared of the crime. She and Batman share a fond but wistful farewell.
Oh, which she finds out. I glossed over the whole love interest as like teenagers thing. And then they reconnect and she realizes it's him at the end.
Yeah.
And leaves a love note.
Yeah, you
Whoops.
didn't say the flashback at all,
I
but-
forgot. I didn't forget about it. I just forgot to... I kind of forgot.
So you liked the episode?
I liked the episode. And something... The
Wow,
biggest,
I'm just so
the
shocked.
biggest impression, and something that apparently you didn't know, which also kind of surprises me, it felt like a Bond film to me.
Yes.
Well,
Yes? Wait, is that like an actual inspiration?
To some degree, yeah. I mean, it was like a Bond villain. There was a whole bunch of that being thrown off the plane kind of thing, and the cargo net thing was very reminiscent of other things that had happened.
That
in
was
Bond
the
films.
moment where you said
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Kind of leading up to it, I had these thoughts, and then by the plane fight, I was like, this is like a Bond film.
Yeah, and there's a lot of overlap with Batman in terms of like getting out of traps and this and that Bond's always getting out of traps and stuff like Batman does. So
Yeah.
there is some of that, but there's a little bit of that, sure.
Oh, that's
Basil
so cool.
Exposition voiced Montague Kane, so we have the Austin
Yes.
Powers connection. Yeah, I don't know. It was weird because I was expecting from our conversations, Dan, to not like this episode. I was thinking like I don't remember disliking this episode, but I guess it must have just been really bad. But I think I can see, like we talked about, what you're talking about in terms of as a setting the bar for a Dong Yang episode, a Dan Riba episode, etc., a Paul Dini episode. This doesn't really meet the criteria.
And on top of it all, looking at the credits, I saw that Spectrum did the layouts. And Spectrum is usually like, when they do the layouts for Don Yang's show, it usually means that it's elevated. It's like spectacular. They're main animators that did On Leather Wings.
Yeah, which is my number one episode. And Ryan never understands. Can you please defend On Leather Wings?
On Leather Wings is fantastic.
Yeah, I know.
Man, it's just weird to be talking to two people that have the wrong opinions. I'm flabbergasted.
I mean, they did other shows too, but it's like that was like the one that kind of like that just shows off what phenomenal animators they are. Yeah. And then they became a layout house when they kind of went under, and their very good animators became like the chief layout artists for Don Yang. And so episodes that they were attached to are generally better. I suspect somehow that Don Yang like went to a cheaper place to do the ink and paint or something, because there's some mistakes, that paint mistakes and things like that, and weird drawing issues that they usually don't do, that are like the shots of Bruce Wayne watching the magic show and his eyes are all like
I saw that.
and I remember calling a retake, and I honestly think I'm like, that can't be the final that we went with. I have a feeling that this airing, that somehow Warner Archives went back and plucked the original without the retake or something, because I can't imagine that we let that go. That was just horrible. I remember noting that when we saw it on a moviola, going, "Oh, that's horrible. We have to redraw that." But there were just so many little paint mistakes and weird things where like her shadow would, like, she had a nose shadow, but it would, like, she'd turn her head and she still had this little triangle of light that, like, there's no reason for half it was like, there was like people that don't understand how light and it's like, oh, it's so sad. The flashback sepia tone thing is so cool, but right, but I think that the backgrounds and the color of the characters, it's like you've got brown and then you've got this sort of warm gray, and they pop so much. And that was a limitation of our color palette at the time. We didn't have the ability to really, and I don't think we were technically allowed to do flat out black and white, because we did have a certain amount of grays.
Well, we just had the Mechanic had a flashback that was in black and white, and I was thinking that the whole time of, so this is an option, but I guess you just prefer to go with sepia tone or something like that.
Yeah, I think they thought it felt more flashbacky if there was, that decision was made outside of my control.
Right.
And I would have at least made maybe the backgrounds a little more brown, when they were painted, to match the cells better. But it's fine. It's like we have that same thing with the newspapers, where we have these warm and cool grays when they're doing, like, and it's like, well, what part? It's like some are yellowed and some aren't, and it doesn't feel.
This one's old.
It's like, yeah. but it's just like, wait, this text is brown and yet the paper is kind of blue, and but it was just the limitations of our palette.
Yeah,
Really
the paint and the TV coloration standards and stuff. Yeah.
Wait, I didn't realize you had specific limitations on color palettes.
Yeah. I mean, we had only so many colors to use, and it seemed like it was infinite, but it isn't.
Yeah.
You really, it's kind of like a comic book, and so that's what you're drawn from. You have only this many warm grays. This is so many browns, so many this and that. Not on the backgrounds. The backgrounds, paint comes from the tube, so people can paint whatever they want. But when it comes to the cells, they're all designated by codes, and so they're everything is pre-designed. You have to use only these colors that are allowed. And they turn out not to be as many as you think.
Yeah, I mean, there's like something. I think there's something to be said for having like being super creative when you're so constrained. Like you have these like kind of like these limitations.
The limitations actually help a lot of times. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is actually part of why I'm glad to have you here for this one, Dan. As we go through trivia, but I'm sure that there's a handful of things that are always like, that's not actually a thing. Someone just made that up or whatever. So like this one, for instance, was, I guess, in Harley and Ivy when the Joker and his goons bust into Harley and Ivy's hideout, that there was a line from Joker where he says, like, "You've been busy, little beavers." And then it got changed to bees because, beavers, maybe not the best choice of words for the ladies in the episode. And then... but I have no way to confirm whether that's true or not. You got a finger up. Okay.
It's true.
It's true. Andrea Romano took offense. And
okay.
she's like, we can't have that. That's just not right. So
well, there we go. Okay.
Yeah,
confirm.
and
Can you
Paul,
confirm every piece of trivia for the past 49?
Well, I mean, there are some things like later on when we get into Superman, and I don't know if you're going to do the show for Superman.
Oh, yes.
So I can't talk about any of that stuff.
No, you can't. No, we're going through the whole shebang.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
The entire DC animated universe in the controversial airdate order.
Because you, being a Marvel person, you don't even know the DC stuff. So if I reference something, you're going to be like,
Right.
"What? What's that?"
I mean,
why would they?
There's a really good chance of it. Like I know some thing. I mean, I know like some Superman. I know. Actually, I don't really know that much.
Yeah. But you do know that Thanos was a ripoff of a Jack Kirby character from DC, right?
Nope.
He did it first.
Really?
Yeah.
You heard it here, folks.
They actually told Jim Starlin, we want our dark side. And so he came up with a character to parallel the character that Jack Kirby had come up with. Even like how much imagination Jack had, who helped form the Marvel universe completely, then you have, even at DC, they're like going, wow, that's a really cool idea. We got to do what he's doing over there.
Yeah.
And so...
And I really loved Darkseid in this episode, Zatanna, that we watched.
Yes, I know. That's how you know.
Reeling it in.
Off topic, but you started it with the
I
Beaver
did.
thing.
Yeah, we did.
Because that actually tracks, but I'm keeping my mouth shut on that too. Someday far in the future, you're going to go, hey, Dan, we're doing a Superman episode.
Yeah. I'm sure, I'm fully expecting there to be...
And then I'll tell you the story.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. I'm fully expecting there to be more views on this episode than on a regular episode, just because you're here. So we have to keep it. We have to keep it tight so we can bring you back for more juice later. Yes. But yeah, the villain in this episode I felt was a little bit lacking in his entire motivation was just like, I don't like you. I think I'm going to steal the money, actually.
Well, I mean, honestly, he's on his way. He's playing this. He's a scam artist, basically, and he's planned this. He's just using her as a full, as a full guy, because he can. It's like.
I guess it doesn't help that we've had 4 Joker episodes in a row or something, and then we had a Penguin episode in there too, and then we just get Montague Kane in this one. Yeah. And it's not like those are always
a mastermind.
Yeah.
The most brilliant evil villain of all.
Right.
Well, in the same way that I like a lot of I love that there seems to be a trend. I don't want to call it B-movie trend because I think that's a little insulting. But there's been a lot of movies coming out recently where like most of the cast aren't super well known. And I love that because then you have this sort of like, you're not watching Brad Pitt play this character. We're watching somebody who you just inherently believe is his character.
Yeah. And
so the same thing with the baddie in this one. Like, he's not the Joker, he's not the Riddler, but he's somebody that kind of, moves.
He's Orson Welles, really. Is what he is.
Yeah. He does look like Orson Welles.
Yeah. He was. No, that's the idea. Montague Kane is like a Citizen Kane kind of reference, and he looks like Orson Welles. Orson Welles was a magician. He was the Shadow. There was also, there are all sorts of connections to magic and Welles, and that's really kind of what
that makes a lot of sense.
We didn't want to make the voice be an impersonation. We didn't get Maurice, to do his Orson Welles, because it wasn't like that would be too on the nose.
Yeah,
and Michael York, was fine. That was a great great casting idea.
Was this?
He just sounds.
Do you remember at all? Was this recorded around the same time as the Vertigo episode Off Balance, because he's both those
it's characters. A little bit after, yeah.
I'm still hanging around the place. I can do another one.
No, there wasn't like they recorded it, but I think, I'm not sure if that was the first one he recorded for us. I think so. And he was just great to work with, and he really liked working with Andrea, and so we're just like, yeah, sure.
He'll be back for more characters.
More Michael York, yeah. and then he comes back for other things too. Does. So we've used him quite a few times.
Oh, that's awesome.
Really nice guy. Really nice guy.
Nice.
It's fun. His voice, I can't not just hear Basil exposition, because that's what I know as a kid.
I know.
But just whenever he's supposed to be any sort of like evil character, which I think is every time he's in these shows is he's a bad guy.
He's really good at a bad guy voice.
He is, yeah. It does sound good, but I just keep picturing this like very happy-go-lucky, suited up British man.
Yeah.
You've got interesting associations, Jamie.
I do. I can't help it. We should talk about the cast, though. I have the list of the cast right here.
Let's talk about the cast.
We have Kevin Conroy as Batman. Would you believe it?
Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. as Alfred.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You're not going to get the next one. Julie Brown as Zatanna. She was previously Lily in Eternal Youth, one of Poison Ivy's henchwomen. She plays a character named Candy in Earth Girls Are Easy. Do you know this movie? Jeff Goldblum?
No, never seen it.
She used to have a show on MTV. This is like when you were babies or not born. She's really cute. She's really cute, bubbly, the perky personality, just really fun. But she was a VJ, but she did more comedy than just like showing videos and stuff. She'd comment on them and stuff. And they made fun of her. They didn't make fun of her. She did the voice. She did a voice on Tiny Toons, and they actually did an animated version of her. Like, the mink. Julie Bruin, I think she was a bear or something. It was like Vavoom. She was a sexy little, and there was actually like this hot dance that she does in silhouette that she used to do on her show, and they actually paralleled that on Tiny Toons.
I had listed that she was Minerva Mink on Animaniacs, which is a similarly
and a similar thing. Because that was after Animaniacs was after this was in Tiny Toons.
What was
they did their MTV thing?
Julie Brown.
Julie
Brown.
Downtown Julie Brown.
That's another one. There were two. That's why they had to make the distinction between downtown. I believe. I think
you're
downtown,
so confident.
I think downtown Julie Brown was British.
Okay. Yeah.
You may be right. That was a while ago.
Yes.
Julie Brown.
But that's why there is a downtown Julie Brown, because they already had a show with Julie, and they were like, well, she's not going to change her name, so she's downtown Julie Brown.
Give it a rhyme. Julie Brown was also the name of my community college English instructor.
It's maybe not
the same one. Is it the same one?
I hope so. She kept doing this sexy dance all the time, right? Now everyone was telling her to stop. Yeah.
Oh my God!
By the way, the thing that you're not talking about, which is because again, Brian doesn't know DC.
Right.
You should. Is that Zatanna in the comics actually has magic?
Right. Yeah, I was gonna bring that up as like people ask us all the time to do a video on how did Zatanna learn real magic? Because in the Batman episode, she doesn't know real magic, but later she has like real magic. And this is a spoiler, Brian. I'm sorry.
Why did you spoil this for me?
But like there is no explanation. But also, I don't fully believe in this episode that she's not using quote unquote real magic, because she both like when she does the bank disappearing thing, there's a big lightning bolt that comes out of her wand. Yeah. And that's not just like a thing. But then at the end, she also does like all of it can be explained the same way Batman does anything with disappearing acts and stuff like that. But I have no, like. You're not thoroughly convinced. Yeah.
And the thing is that Paul has he's fixated on Zatanna. He's very obsessed with the character. And so in the comics, she speaks backwards to make a spell. That was like this thing that Zatanna used to do in the Golden Age.
And she does that once in here, I think.
She does. Arba de Carba. When the lightning comes out of the thing.
Oh my God.
Arba de Carba.
Yeah.
How did I not catch that? It was backwards. Amazing.
Yeah, that's the one time, and that's when the lightning bolt. That's when the bank.
So
disappears.
that's our nod to the comic version and the magic that she does in the comics. And you're right. She might just like have learned magic somehow, and they're just keeping those secrets from Bruce, or excuse me, John Smith.
From Brian.
He just wanted to learn how to escape. But in some parallel universe somewhere, he actually is a wizard like Doctor Strange,
Batman sorcerer.
That's cool. I like that.
What do you think, Dan, of the thought that Zatara is usually a bit more of a notable character in like Justice Society history and stuff like that?
Exactly.
But he is just he's dead now in this episode. We see him this one time and then he's dead.
Yeah.
Like, what is your opinion on that? Like, not getting to be able to bring him back for anything later? Was that ever
here's the thing: is that it wasn't like we were spoiling anything. He had died in the comics too.
Okay.
Ironically, they had so many like overlaps of characters from the Silver Age or the Golden Age, and they did a lot of like Earth 2 and this and that.
Yeah.
But they really wanted to showcase the girl version of Zatanna and his Zatara, and so they were like, no, we like the girl in the fishnets. This is gonna work better. So that's like, but we can't have both of them because that's gonna be weird. So he's dead. Let's make him and this is the successor. Okay. So I think that was the take.
I've never been like, oh man, Justice League would have been so much better with John Zatara or something like that.
Right.
Guy in top hat.
Well, I mean, and at the end of the day, they're all inspired by Mandrake the Magician comic strip. They're all sort of that was the deal.
Yeah, and I only got halfway through the cast because we talked about Julie Brown for so long. We have Zale Kessler as Fonswater. I always try to go through the IMDb's for everybody and pick out like a handful of notable things, but Zale Kessler didn't have anything that I recognized, so don't know.
And I have no recollection. I wasn't there at the record for this because I don't know why. Oh, because it wasn't my show yet.
Yeah.
And so I do remember working with Michael York on other shows, but not on this one.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, who knows? Vincent Schiavelli?
Vincent Schiavelli.
Schiavelli, yeah, as Zatara. Yes. And I recognized his face real hard when I saw it, but I don't know what I know him from because the only things that stuck out to me were he's the organ grinder in Batman Returns.
Yes.
In the big scene with all the clowns destroying the town square and whatever.
Yeah.
He's Dr. Kaufman in Tomorrow Never Dies.
Okay.
This is a Bond movie, which works out.
Yeah, that's the torturer who loves his work.
Yeah. And then
speaking of a Bond villain.
Yeah. And because you can't hear it, but we have a Hey Arnold button. I can't even remember why it came up in the first place.
Because we go on tangents.
But if people have done Hey Arnold voices, this guy was Mr. Bailey and Vincent the Pigeon Man on Hey Arnold.
Vincent is one of my favorite characters.
Yeah, Dan, why do I know this guy?
He was one of the lunatics in the asylum in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and that's probably where we all first saw him. So he and Danny DeVito and Christopher Lloyd were all so convincing that you look at them and you think that they're
Yeah.
really lunatics, you
Cuckoo,
know,
yeah.
and you realize because they did cast real, you know, in the backdrop there were actual real inmates of this real place that they were. So you just think, oh yeah, those are just more of those guys. No, they're actors. They're actors. You know, and he's also in one of my favorite movies, Buckaroo Banzai. He's one of the Lectroids. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He's one of the evil Lectroids.
Okay.
Which casting on Buckaroo Banzai actually influenced a lot of stuff later on. You've never seen it?
No, should I?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's a very weird movie.
You've sold me. Really Buckaroo Banzai?
Yeah. He's like a
You gotta write it down.
A rock and roll Doc Savage. He has a band of that he goes around with, the Hong Kong Cavaliers, and they fight aliens, and he's like, he's awesome. It's the coolest movie. It's
he signed me up.
Yeah.
We have
Peter Weller.
Yeah.
And we've like throughout the DC animated universe has like used a lot of actors from that film. Wish we could get Goldblum at some point, but
who would you cast him as
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. He could be so many things. But
Grandmaster.
But Carl Lumley, Clancy Brown. You know, there's quite a few.
The Buckaroo Banzai references in the DCAU video coming soon. It'll just be.
But Vincent Schiavelli was one of the the aliens. He was one of
I feel like he's in some movie that I watched a lot as a kid, where he similarly plays like just some kind of goofy side character or something.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There must be something.
And apparently he was a really great chef, and so that's the other thing too. He actually like as a hobby, but I don't know if they're videos, but they're books. I think he's written and stuff and cooking. So
that's where Batman learned all of his culinary skills.
True. This is true. That's the real magic.
Yeah, the magic of the kitchen. Last couple are Bruce W. Timm as Red, which I think was one of the thugs or something on the airplane.
Yes.
Okay. He was previously the Mad Bomber in Beware the Grey Ghost.
Yeah.
And other things, you know.
He doesn't have a whole lot of lines in this. I didn't. He kind of mostly grunts and stuff.
Yeah. There was something last episode that you thought was him.
I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't know.
That was weeks ago.
It sure was. And then Michael York as Dr. M. Kane is what he's credited as, previously Vertigo and Off Balance, and everything else that we talked about.
By the way, I believe I designed Red and that other.
I was going to ask if you did any character designs for this episode.
Yeah. I'm not crazy about them in the way they were animated. I wish there's something really blocky and
I guess that's
about the weight. He's kind of overweight, but not in a really believable way.
Yeah.
He just looks like he has a big suit.
That's what we were saying about.
It's like David Byrne in a big lumpy suit.
We were saying that about Joker's henchman in Harley and Ivy. Was like there's a shot where Batman lands on them, like he jumps down from a building and just steps on both of them, and his feet like dig really deep into their bodies. And we were joking that like Joker didn't actually hire a couple of fat guys, like he hired skinny goons and made them wear like 60 suits.
Yeah, whole bunch of padding.
It's a scam. They go to the dressing room and they just like they try stuff on and they just walk out with big suits.
He's like, all of it, do all of it or I'll kill you.
Well, that was also...
And the Joker's outside laughing.
Yeah.
It's a joke!
I like that. I want this to be canon. Well, similarly, that was the expanding penguin in the previous episode as well.
Oh, yeah. In the mechanic, he changes heights like 6 times.
Drastically.
Yeah. The Joker, I mean, the Penguin in the comics, I don't know what his height was. He's sort of average height. But because it was DeVito in the movie, we kind of made him shorter. But then he kind of, even later on when we went back,
I'm sorry, this is so troubling.
He's always supposed to be sort of short. Yeah. So let's,
I was going to say, I bet that you that's probably a big part of the like, oh, I don't like the look of this episode is anytime that you design a character and then you get to see it in motion.
Well.
And
yeah, you see it in motion and you go, oh, well, they didn't interpret that well. and mind you, I don't just, I blame everybody for that sometimes. It's like other designers get my wrath as well when but I don't blame them so much as like, well,
maybe sometimes
we
the
were
design
trying to crank
itself,
these things out.
the design itself might have been not like very translatable or whatever.
Yeah, it's just stuff that, and also, honestly, I'd like to say this was well animated, but it kind of isn't. It's actually a very average animated show. It's not as bad as some of the worst ones, but
it's no ACOM.
No, but it's not an ACOM. But honestly, I see a lot of ACOM-isms.
My favorites are always when Sunrise does it. Also, as like a Cowboy Bebop fan, I love that look, and it doesn't. To be fair, it doesn't look like Batman so much to me. Like the Don Yang stuff to me is now like that's what Batman looks like. But I always love the crazy angles and stuff that Sunrise comes out with, and the cool effects and all that.
The keen effects.
Keen.
Yeah, no, Sunrise was good. And the first, and Leather Wing Spectrum, and those first.
Yes, of course,
right?
a perfect episode. So tell us how you became director, co-director, whatever you want to call it, of this replacement director, etc.
I don't know what I was doing. I mean, besides character designing, but what was on my plate when I get the call to like, hey, can you come into Bruce's office? And all the producers were there, and Kevin Altieri, and they were like, and Dick Sebast was like, I don't know if he was there at the time, but he helped me. When we were transitioning, but I mean, it was a very short time period. It was just sort of like, so Dick's leaving, and Kevin says you directed a Deke, and you can do this, and we're all behind you.
So it wasn't it wasn't a really bad situation or something with Dick leaving. It was just
no. He really didn't. I don't know. He never really gelled with the show for some reason. He never connected. And he, it wasn't like I don't think he disliked Bruce or anything, but I don't think he liked it wasn't his cup of tea for some reason. I don't know exactly what it was. There might have been some kind of politics behind it. I know he didn't like the notes and stuff like that, and he just kind of, but
I don't like being told this thing wasn't right.
yeah. So I'm not sure exactly, and I can't speak for him.
Sure.
All I can say is that I benefited from his decision. So he's been very good to me. So I'm like, whatever. I think he was wrong to leave, but I'm so glad he did. Because, it helped me a lot.
Well, what like?
So, but I wouldn't have left.
Well, because if he's leaving in like the middle of production on this episode, what is the?
Well, what happened was I think there was some project at H&B that was coming up that he wanted to do, and he had there was some Johnny Quest video, and then there was like the Halloween tree, which ended up getting an Emmy. So
Hanna-Barbera, Brian.
Yeah, at Hanna-Barbera.
Come on, don't you patronize me?
So he, I think that was really like, oh, I have to go do this. I've been asked to do this, and these are my old friends that I used to work with.
Okay.
And so and I kind of I don't want to say no. And and so he decided, weighing all the things in his career that he wanted to do, and also he lived, still does, I believe, out in like Big Bear, and would commute to California, to Los Angeles, and it's like
that's like a 4 or 5 hour drive.
It's a 4 or 5 hour drive, exactly, and so it wasn't like he commuted every day. But what he did was he would stay in Los Angeles for like 4 days a week, and he'd leave on Fridays. And, so we, I maybe even had a 3-day week. I think it might have been like Mondays and Fridays he wasn't around. And so it was hard for him to work on a show that needed to be so hands-on where, he still takes stuff with him and work at home. But it wasn't like, it wasn't like now where computers and you can do all this stuff remotely. It wasn't. Yeah. This wasn't a remote show. You couldn't do that.
Yeah.
And so he wanted to work at a place that was a little more, accessible for that kind of schedule and his lifestyle and stuff.
Okay.
So it was it wasn't.
Yeah, it's good that it wasn't just some like.
No. There was no door slamming. I'm out of here, you bums. Nothing like that. No, he was
panicking.
He had options that, like, he realized that it was just like, no, I can't do that if I'm here.
Well, that's too bad. I no longer get to say directed by Dick Seabass anymore.
I know, right? That's yeah.
You and your constant pronunciations.
Yeah, he's a talented guy. He really is.
Yeah.
He really is. And some upcoming shows. I'm keeping my mouth shut. Still, I believe, right? Or wait, let me take a look.
There might be one or two left, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's ironic. I think this one had stayed on his table longer for some reason. They might have been problematic or something, and so.
I guess maybe
they moved the other one up.
Last production wise or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to mention. You've seen a Goofy movie, Brian?
Yeah.
Julie Brown also voices a very minor character in a Goofy movie. The preppy blonde, like, popular girl at the high school.
Yeah.
In the opening song, she says, like, "No more pep rallies because bleh." That's her line. I just had to bring that up because I wrote it down. Thank you very much. Hi, this is James from the future. I'm listening back while editing and realizing that I'm actually an idiot. Julie Brown, the character that she voices in a Goofy movie, is not who I said. It is actually the girl that says, "Gonna move to the mall." And then also during the power line scene near the start where Max is pretending to be power line, she says, "Who's that guy?" I just had to clarify that. That's Zatanna. Back to the episode. Now, I only have 2 pieces of actual trivia. I gather these from the DCAU wiki, IMDb, or my own brain, is what I always say. So one of them is just an interesting thing, and then the other one is one of the, like, I need Dan Riba to confirm this is a real thing. First is this and Night of the Ninja, which we've watched already, are the only 2 episodes that show a young Bruce Wayne training.
Really?
I feel like there was some little bit in another one. DOTS is the acronym for the episode, Dan. But I don't remember if Bruce Wayne is seen in that or not.
Do you want me to leave the room for a minute?
It's the opposite of the first title I said, sort of.
Yeah.
Dan's writing down the letters to see
Day
it.
of the Superman.
Yeah. I got you. It's the inverse of the same idea. It's sort of a sequel episode of sorts. Yes. I think it might have been referenced in there. Yeah.
But yeah, I just think because when we watched Night of the Ninja, I said that this and one other episode we get to see Bruce Wayne doing some training, and in this one he even mentions he's going to Japan later.
Yeah. That was a setup. So
for an episode that aired before this.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, but it's callback actually, technically, because yes,
there is no DCAU timeline, Dan.
by the way, I just looked at the YouTube has the Just Say Julie Bruin Tiny Toons. You get to see the animated version of her MTV show. It was Just Say Julie was the name of the show on MTV, and so you could check that first and then see what they're parodying, and it's adorable. It's
awesome. Will do.
So the one that I need you to confirm, because it doesn't sound real to me, but if it is, it's really cool. Was Montague Kane originally going to be the gentleman ghost in this episode, to your knowledge?
Thank you for
adding that on. Yeah. Paul Dini's calling you. No.
There is. This is funny. Well, you mention it because you mentioned it, and the idea is in my head that we were thinking about doing the Gentleman Ghost. I wasn't aware if it was this episode or not. So I know that there was it's how let me put it this way, not entirely impossible. But I'm not aware. I am not aware. But I do know there was talk about doing the Gentleman Ghost, and we couldn't figure out an angle for it or whatever.
Yeah, supposedly, according to whoever crafted this unsourced piece of trivia, was that like Alan Burnett was like, "Oh, this is too supernatural, too magical. We're not going to do this. This is our Batman show is more grounded than this kind of a thing.
No, well, that would have been Bruce mostly.
Okay.
Alan wasn't the one who was concerned with that stuff. It was Bruce was the one who wanted the show, this particular show, rooted in. So when we had a werewolf, it was a science werewolf.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that reminds me of the one too with the Riddler episode we watched with the virtual reality thing.
Right.
What is reality?
Yes.
Because I guess I remember that was something you said that Bruce commented that it was like, no, this isn't our Batman. We don't do this sort of thing.
Right. Yeah, that was a quote from him. Yeah.
And I remember, that was the show while I was working on this one, the board. I had layouts for that, so I had to like figure out all the weird melding, the Riddlers multiplying and all that stuff. I had to kind of animate
cool.
That. So
that was so cool.
So that was, uncredited. I got all that, and I worked my butt off on that show, and I don't get a blip on the credits for it. So, but that's okay.
Don't worry. I feel the same way about James's work.
I credit you every time, bro. You have like 6 different credits in the Watchtower story finale video.
I got to see a preview of it. It wasn't fully edited, but it's cool to see how. I don't know if you know the storyline of what's going on.
Well, I kind of know where it's been, but not know where it's going. How about that?
Yeah. Well, I don't want to give too much away. Yeah. It's looking good though.
Wait, let's see. We do trivia. What do we do next on this show? I'm so flabbergasted.
Oh,
Starstruck. It's called Starstruck.
Oh,
can we talk about more things that I hate about it?
Yes, we can. We absolutely can.
By the way, I want to shield for some of my own artwork here because I have 2 covers that I drew on for these blank covers, and there was a whole bunch of stuff for CGC that was sold. But I did these things before, and a friend of mine is selling them.
Okay.
And a couple of pieces have not sold.
Oh.
And so there's a Man Bat. I don't know if you've seen that one, but it's still out in the ether.
Yeah, you did show me that. Yeah, that's really cool.
Okay. All right. So that's still out there. That is still out there. That actually works. That's out in the world.
That's bizarre that nobody has wanted.
No,
that
it is bizarre. It's like somebody was interested, and then they kind of like, okay.
What's it going for?
Well, that's the thing, but you can negotiate. 'Cause it might end up on eBay if it doesn't get a firm hit soon. So
I don't know if that's really good art.
It's stupid, man.
No, that looks awesome.
Now just show us your whole desktop. Show us all the secret Cadmus files that you've got on
I can't do that. There's a penguin that I sold that went to France.
Oh.
Yeah.
The penguin. That's what they call them. The penguin.
Okay. Okay.
Should we swoop back into Zatanna?
Yes. So, did I?
Well, we got to talk about things that you hated.
So I was going to say that, like, originally I was like, oh no, I know that we're going to talk a long time with Dan on the podcast, but I have to get home, blah, blah, blah. And then I just got a text from Jessica that says, take your time heading back. We're heading out to pick huckleberries. So whatever time that Dan Riba wants to spend on the
huckleberries.
Yeah.
That is so quaint.
It really is. I didn't know there was an actual thing. I just thought it was just a hound.
What?
And a fin.
No. And a soda.
You know that our police vehicle is actually based on a real, like a real streamliner thing that was done for the World's Fair back in the 30s.
Are we talking about Batman the Animated Series?
Yes. We're circling back. But it's like there was and we used to have one on Van Nuys Boulevard. Somebody bought one of those things and was restoring it. So we drive past it on the way to work all the time, and we take pictures, and we even it was fairly unsupervised. We actually went in it and took pictures. And I think we got permission at some point when we found out about the restoration, and we took all sorts of pictures for reference. Mm-hmm. And the guy finally like souped it up, and originally it's like this beautiful shiny white and silver. There are different versions of it, but this guy had it like all covered in brown paint as a primer, and we liked that, so we used that color as the police vehicle.
That's awesome.
City. But it is actually like a real.
Now, which blimp did you base the blimps on? World War II Zeppelins.
Yeah. No, those are made up. Those are all made up. Okay, so one of the things, speaking of blimps.
Okay.
Blimp talk here on Jump on the Bat-Wagon.
96.9.
Now this is one of the problems that I've always had with the show, and it was because this was the sequence that was on my desk as I got the show. It's like, we're not done yet. We have to finish the episode. There's still a little bit coming in from board artists, but here's this section that's not done, and it was all the plane
airplane stuff, yeah.
And so I had to board a little bit to pad out the fight, and ultimately, you're boarding something that you're like, okay, this will be exciting, this works, dramatically, blah blah blah, but you forget that they're on a plane. And if it had been a blimp, I would have no problem with this episode. But if you've ever like held your hand out of a car, or seen a dog,
Batman and those thugs are just standing.
They're
up
just
there,
strolling along.
Yeah.
They don't have special clamps on their feet. There are no suction cups. There's no magnets.
They're flying very slowly.
I especially like the part where Batman he's going over and he's controlling the rudder, and he looks like he's about 15 feet from the propeller. And he's just like, this is fine.
Moving it with his human strength, yeah.
And he's got a cape, and I'm like, how can this? I mean, it's a cool looking airplane. It's a great flying wing. It's neat, but oh my gosh, how could we let this go past?
Was that plane based on any pre-existing plane? Because it's like got like seaplane like landing gear,
right?
But it's a big like flat surface.
It looks really World War II experimental aircraft.
Yeah,
right. I mean, it is a flying wing based on a flying wing, but I don't think there's anything quite like that.
Based on a seaplane, based on a sailboat,
and I think, roughly it's like the what is it, the spruce goose kind of thing, like in Long Beach. It was like this big thing. That's why it's a big deal on the picture. That's why they know where it is, because it's like, oh, it's that flying wing that's moored out by Long Beach, kind of thing.
And you guys must have been fascinated with that design, because several other large ships in upcoming shows and episomes are also just a big wing like that.
We liked flying wings. Yeah, we did. That was that. Down, the Rocketeer. I'd have not the Rocketeer. The Indiana Jones had a flying wing. And, it was. But yeah, it shows up a lot in our stuff.
I do like on that scene also. I don't like. I've seen this episode maybe like 5 times. Like, it's one that I don't return to too often, but I somehow it stuck out to me. We're watching it, and Batman is like having like a face off with one of the thugs, and they're like circling each other like predators or whatever. And I was like, here comes the Batman butt shot. And then it was immediately, there's just Batman's ass filling the entire frame for some reason. And then it cuts away to the next thing. And I'm like, why was that a shot? Dan, explain.
Thank you. That butt shot was padded. It was just like, we're short, we need to lengthen the show, let's add more crap. The thing that bothers me about it is these thugs come out running on the wing, which would be like,
immediately just flying off.
But it's like a guy with an axe and a guy with a wrench, and you think, what? Wouldn't Montague's guys have a gun? Wouldn't anybody ever think to shoot Batman? Mm-hmm. But no, they have to I've got an axe, and you're like, the most efficient weapon to use on a plane wing. It really, I'm like, what were we thinking? How? I wonder if there was a BS&P thing from a previous show where there was too much gunplay, and then it worked. They just kind of let's keep it down, because I don't know, because there's not a whole lot of gunplay in this one, actually. Now that I think about it, and I'm like,
if any,
I guess they figured that his men wouldn't have guns, that they were just kind of I don't know.
Well, it's weird because I only know very few other Zatanna stories, and not when I'm trying to come up with a plot from scratch of what a Zatanna episode of this show would be, for whatever reason it doesn't involve fraud and airplanes. Like, it just seems like a weird like choice to make for like, let's bring in the magician. We're gonna do. There's a guy that wants money, and they're gonna fight on a big airplane, and that's the whole.
I mean,
episode.
but now that's also granted. You have a lot of experience with like a much bigger breadth of work than I have to experience. But like to me, this doesn't seem out of place.
Okay.
Oh, that's great. That's great. No, and I mean, and a logistic thing. The weird design for the cargo net was important because we couldn't actually do netting animation on an actual net, like a fishing net kind of thing, would just be impossible. All the little ropes and all that stuff, it would have been like way too much pencil mileage. It wouldn't have succeeded. It would have been horrible. So we had to come up with something that seemed plausible. That seemed like some kind of like cargo cover thing that you're using as a net. You know, and that's the kind of thing that looks like something that's real.
I think it
but
worked.
It really was something that we kind of could animate. Yeah. Really, bottom line is like, can we draw this? And yeah, we can draw this.
I think it worked in the closer shots better than there were a couple wide shots to show them hanging off of it, and I was like, a big waffle, like it just it'd be like because the squares got bigger because you're trying not to.
Exactly.
It's cool though to like hear again talking about like arbitrary limitations. I had no idea that like.
Yeah,
a net style was something you had to consider, and that opens up a lot for this show for me, I think.
Well, and the other thing that I realized also when the walls are coming together with the spikes, which was kind of a call out from the Batman TV show. It's like one wall is fixed and the other one is sliding because I don't think we could have had two sliding elements work perspective wise. And so there's some weird perspective cheats that we do on those things and the only one like shot that I was like we actually animated the spikes coming closer to them because that was kind of that was a kind of a cool shot.
That was the scene I was imagining because you know before talking to you today in person, it was like, okay, Dan didn't like the animation in this episode, so I'm keeping an eye out for that kind of stuff. And that was a scene that I kind of envisioned you getting upset about, was because there was like Batman sticks the spike underneath to stop one of the walls, so then only one of them is moving. Okay, that makes sense. But then when you see it come loose, still only one of the walls is moving, and then they get very slowly, and then they get up out of the door and they immediately together. And I was just thinking that you were going to be like, oh, they didn't do that right and all this stuff.
No, I actually that's exactly my words when I saw
it. They didn't do that right.
but what is funny too is that if you look at the movie serials, the Batman movie serials, because I have one of them on Super 8 that from the 40s.
Yeah,
they do the same spike wall thing, and then Batman, the '66 Adam West Batman did the spiked wall thing, and so it's a call out to several different Batman things.
I like how Batman also has a vial of metal eating acid in his pocket, like in his belt. Well, that's the thing we've been doing on this whole show is there's a lot of like
what's in Batman's belt.
Yeah, well, that and like that's not how that would work in real life, kind of a thing. And in fact, I wish you could hear it. We have a button that's us singing the phrase "That's not how that works" to the tune of Batman the Animated Series. I wonder if I can
put your headphones up to that.
Okay.
That's not how that works.
And then the buzzer. But yeah, it was so like that. I felt that way about the stuff because I thought for some reason I couldn't remember what they did in this scene, so I was imagining that he melts the spikes and then they somehow like fit their bodies between where the spikes used to be and don't get crushed.
No, I mean ultimately you climb the spikes carefully, when you can. But you have to do it while one is not coming at you. And
there was a little bit of, I guess that's a complaint of mine about the episode was that, I mean, we don't see in the flashback, we don't see Zatanna. I'm going to say Zatanna, okay? That's what I've been saying my whole life. I'm going to say we don't see Zatanna do anything herself like escape artisty. We just see Batman get out of the chains and whatnot. Which we joked about in Harley and Ivy. He gets out of all the chains off screen and then swims to the top. And so like, Batman, you can't do this. You're on screen. How can you possibly do that? But then when they're in the spike thing, Zatanna like doesn't do anything. She just stands there while Batman gets them out of there. And then she goes like, what does she say? She says some snarky like, they don't call me this thing for nothing, kind of a line that indicates.
And you're like, what did you do?
Yeah, that indicates she did something, and I'm like, you did nothing. But yeah, it was that was a complaint of mine, was like, Zatanna doesn't do enough in the episode called Zatanna.
Yeah.
To warrant.
You should write Paul Dini a letter.
Yeah, come on, man. I will really do that. Yeah. Hey, Paul, I know we haven't had you on yet because you keep evading us. Your episode Zatanna kind of sucked. Why didn't you write Zatanna better? Your favorite character.
I can't. I don't know. I don't know. It maybe he had something in mind and it wasn't boarded right, because again, I came on really late, and it was sort of like, here, finish this, get it out the door. We have to get this done quickly, and it's short, so we need to board all this, and so I wasn't able to address things that I felt weird. I honestly, I don't even understand the beginning. I really don't understand how. Wait, why are they
doing a magic
what
show?
kind of stage setup outside of a main mint, and how does that work? Do people do that? And then you think, I guess because it's like. Yes, like what's his name, David Copperfield or whatever, would like make the Statue of Liberty disappear. So it's supposed to be something like that.
She could have made Lady Gotham disappear.
there's a pre-show thing that he does before he makes the statue. So that's kind of what this is. But it doesn't really read like that, and it doesn't really, because they're so I have like issues about the magic show, and why that camera pan works around her that showed the crowd. I'm like, I just wish it cut instead. And there's also a lot of walking that's like unnecessary, and pans like, and we're like, wait, there's a snake in her flowers. Wait, how does that? It's not reading, and it's like it's all logistic stuff. Like, oh, I wish I did that better. I wish we had finessed that more, and I wish that trick worked better.
I liked the
bubbles. They were tracking with bubbles. I'm like, they're bubbles. Why are we panning with bubbles? Why do we need to do that?
I know what bubbles look like. Yeah, well, when she first appears, like she's announced, and then like there's a big puff of pink smoke, and to me it looked like what was supposed to happen was that the smoke like erupts and then like fades away, clears away. Yes. But instead of that happening, the animation continues and the whole thing just slides off the screen to the right.
Yeah.
As if like, I don't know how to do transparency, so
but then there's transparencies when there shouldn't be. Because there's things that are supposed to be hidden, and the smoke is transparent, and I'm like, oh, that should be more.
Oh, yeah, we encountered that in the Hardak episode. The Hardak episode had,
And I always feel like those are the things where you make a choice when we actually have...
It's time for Dan to show us stuff. Ooh.
Is this backwards, or can you read this?
No, can read it. Yeah.
Okay, layout and effects, EFX, right?
Uh-huh.
So this is this thing you stamp. These are stamps on the storyboards. And it still has ink, actually. And you when you have issues of like, layout, you make a note on your storyboard for the layout department to understand something you want to do. This layer does this, this, and this. You stamp that on the board. And when you have the effects where you want to do like percentages of the smoke, and we want this to be at 30%, we want this to be blah, blah, blah. And all of that stuff has to be worked out ahead. You stamp that on the storyboard. And I kept these.
I took them home.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good bit of original. That's not a prop. What is that?
I know. It's
kind of production
to a museum. It's my stopwatch, and my stopwatch I got, my animation stopwatch I got from Warner's.
I've got a lot of that from. I did a lot of musical theater when I was down in California, and I have set pieces, like wall art. I have costume bits. Like there's probably something within. There we go. Wizard of Oz. Anatomical felted heart from the person who did my makeup. But
so I guess you were the cowardly lion that ripped the heart out of
The
not so cowardly, the vicious lion.
Oh, I have courage now. I've always wanted to do that.
But there's something about that. Those little things that remind you so much of that time and place. So I get that.
Exactly. So I see those and I remember, stamping those things.
Yeah.
And for the most part we got them right, but and as you get better at it when you see more shows coming in, you realize how things look and you test stuff out. Usually I was really happy with the choices made. But early on, we were kind of like figuring stuff out, and you'd have a checker kind of like, writing you going, no, that smoke should be this, like this, and you're like, oh, okay, but I think in the story it's going to do this, but if you know better, and then you go, nope, it's not quite right. Yeah. But then a lot of times they fix it and they go, no, if you wanted this, then you should have this, and they help you, guide you as you're going along, and so.
Well, and you have your effect stamp is a perfect segue into our next segment of the podcast.
Wow.
Where we talk. Originally, this segment was about light wraps, which was any...
And like lighting effects.
Yeah,
and
well,
stuff.
because the first several episodes we were noticing all had different... they were all different animation studios, but they were all doing different, like, Commissioner Gordon would be looking through the blinds, and the lights from the blinds would, like, wrap around his face in a 3D way. Or the Joker is going up the trash chute, and there's all the different light rays hitting his face and all this stuff. But then we eventually there's not light wraps happening every episode, so we changed it for one episode, I think, to Cool Effects, KEWL F-ECKS. And then we had one of our listeners goes by Keen Machine, and he's trying to do this thing where he's trying to make everyone say keen instead of cool. It's like his life mission. And so we've now changed it to Keen Effects. F-E-C-K F-E-C-K.
Okay.
So this is the Keen Effects segment where we talk about any keen effects that we saw in the episode.
Well, I'd like to hand this one straight over to Dan. To say, are there any art things in this episode that you were just like, we nailed that, or that's super cool, or that you really enjoyed?
Oh.
Nailed, you say?
Is there one?
That's a tough one, because it's like I all I can see are the flaws, and it's a sucky thing with being a director on something, because you're so close that all you see are like, oh, what it should have been is this, or what I wish I'd done is this, or what they should have done was this, or what they should have done was that. and so
so this is a bit of an exercise in like self-discipline, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't notice anything in this one. Like in Harley and Ivy, there were some lasers in front, like surrounding a diamond in the museum that were clearly like some sort of foil that you were bouncing light off of and stuff like that. This one didn't have any notable, like, a practical effect that you were doing to create the illusion of whatever. There was just a bunch
the
of
lightning
drawings.
from her thing was like the only thing I could think of, and because it was just like, it was mostly layout issues with like how to have characters on the plane doing stuff, and the spikes, a lot of that stuff.
What Brian noticed, there was like a flash of red when Batman tossed a guy at a table or something. That was like, I think this is one of. I don't know if that's on purpose, because I know that eventually you're using like the white flashes to hide impacts for censorship reasons. But I don't know if that red flash was like a blood related thing or something to indicate pain, or I don't know.
It's supposed to indicate like impact. Ouch! We don't do the big signs that
like,
they do.
Pow.
Pow!
We don't do pows and youch with the tongue sticking out. We don't do that.
Or in Batman and Harley Quinn, "Ow, my balls!" I believe was one of the.
That was we didn't even talk about that. That was the funniest thing.
Oh yeah, what, that wasn't in this episode, was it?
No, that was
that was in The Man Who Killed Batman. Yeah. There's a guy that falls off a table, and there's a clear outline of his testicles in his pants.
Well, I wouldn't. It's a crotch shot. I wouldn't say it's clear.
There's a line outline going around, like there's a lump.
I think it's the hem.
There's a lump.
I think you're looking at like the hem of the pants.
But that's right when a character says, nuts.
Yeah,
and it's like that has to be on purpose. But that wasn't.
What episode?
Man Who Killed Batman.
Yeah, that's on purpose. That's Bruce. we didn't. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that I'm sure, that was like, yeah.
Wow,
it's like either Paul or Bruce, like, yeah.
That's very airplane of you guys.
Because there were things that in a Justice League episode later on, and I'm not going to say it because that doesn't exist yet.
What are you talking about?
Oh, but I want to know.
It reminds me that we haven't actually brought up Andrea Romano very much or at all on the podcast yet. We always talk about like the main the writer, director, the music,
Yeah.
composer, and the animation company are like the four things we go over every time. But Andrea Romano is the voice director for like all of these shows, and Avatar, and like any like good cartoon, she was probably the voice director for. So,
Really?
So like that, she's a huge part of like what makes an episode good, or whatever you want to think of it as.
Huge.
So.
Oh, we should talk about her.
I mean, but that's the thing. I'm just going to say, and voice director, Andrea Romano, every time.
and the thing about her that was extraordinary, that it's like, it's like, I just thought that she was just innately a genius, that she just came to work and just kind of like, just knew the script perfectly and knew exactly how to get people to, how to describe to an actor what the character's motivations were and all this stuff. And it turns out that she would read the script the day before, but then she'd get up at like 6 a.m. or 4 a.m. and go through and read the script carefully, notate lines, read it again and again and again, and come up with all these notes to take during the session. And so she would become fully prepared, knowing every single character, what everyone's motivation is, any weirdness in the story that confused her, that she was trying to whatever, so that we'd go to our table reads and all these questions would come out from her about this and this. And she would also be prepared about, and then ask, so is this? And the writer and or Bruce or myself would go, yes, this is this. And, and then, you'd clarify everything at the table read. And it was like, it was extraordinary how incredibly prepared she was. And I just thought she's just a genius. It's like, no, she worked her butt off. Yes, she is a genius.
Both.
She's really good. Yeah. But she also really, really, really worked hard at this.
A well-earned genius.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. That's the thing. She earned every penny of it because she was like really, really, really good at this. And,
that's awesome.
They all are good. There are a lot of good people, but she's just, I'm not like they pull away from other voice directors. There are other voice directors that prepare, but I've never experienced anything like Andrea. She is like extraordinary the way she knows this stuff.
And she just retired from that job like 3-4 years ago or something like that.
Yeah.
And no dissing on anybody who's taken over for her on any projects and stuff, but you can tell it's not a drop in quality, it's just a different vibe. I can't quite explain it. There's just kind of not quite the same synergy between actors or something, and it's never like anything that makes me dislike the thing. I'm speaking specifically about like DCAU projects that have come out since her retirement, but there's always just like some little spark is missing that I can't explain.
Yeah, she's extraordinary. She's absolutely extraordinary.
Well, and the next thing that we talk about is Batman's usefulness in the episode. We give a rating to Batman's usefulness. This cropped up a few episodes into the podcast when we watched It's Never Too Late, because we realized that the plot of the episode would be almost exactly the same if Batman wasn't there. So the point of this one is like if Batman had nothing to do with this episode, like how differently would it have played out? So how useful was he to the plot of how things happen?
I think she'd rot in jail.
Yeah,
so.
Well, she would have gone to jail.
He was very
pretty useful
pivotal
in this episode. Yeah,
absolutely.
But we give him a rating out of 10, and it's always kind of based on some sort of gag that's happened in the podcast or a notable prop or something that was silly. Like, for instance, I think I will give Batman 8.5 arbacadarbas out of 10.
I'm going to meet you there. I was also going to say 8. I'm going to give him 8.5, 8.5.
Yeah, same here.
Boa constrictors in a top hat out of 10.
With the top hat collapsible.
Yeah.
Also.
Dan, you wanna give us a Batman's usefulness rating?
Oh gosh. No.
Come on. You can take a minute.
Yeah, we can give you time.
Sure.
We do this every once in a while too, where it's like, hold on, give me a minute. I need to think of an object in the show.
James will edit out the pause.
I know. 8 out of 10 guys falling out into the water. And obviously surviving.
That has definitely been a thing that we've a running gag on the podcast because
Thousands of feet. I mean, maybe hundreds, but you know, it's like, you know, but it's okay because it's water.
It's
water.
Always water.
It's water's soft. We drink it all the time. It's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah, somebody's falling off a tall thing. We're always like, where's
the water?
Like,
Where's the water?
Shot of the water. Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Is it Fire from? I don't know. Whatever. Something. Is there an episode coming up that where somebody falls into a swimming pool, or that already happened?
That was in Feet of Clay. Yeah.
Feet of Clay.
And Batman.
Oh, yeah.
Batman has the guy's car skewered by the Batwing, and then the guy falls out of the car in motion, like. They'd been going, there's perpetual motion, and he's falling, and he somehow lands perfectly in this guy's like outdoor pool on top of a building. Yeah, Batman knew that was going to happen. He'd be fine.
Yeah. Because I would have cut to Batman going, "Dang, that pool!" Like
I was going to explode.
That wasn't supposed to. Lucky guy. That wasn't supposed to happen.
The last thing before we do our placement or not on our top 10 lists is I'm not going to explain this segment at all to you, Dan. I just want you to give me an answer, okay? Is this episode books or hip-hop?
Welcome to the world, Dan.
This is the podcast.
Books.
All right.
Okay, yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, we don't know what it means either. We've just been doing it every episode.
It's a literally meaningless measurement that we apply to each episode. But it's been interesting because there's been like in the on the YouTube, the Podtower on the YouTube. There's been listeners kind of like making this canon of like, oh, if it's more of a books episode, it's like if it's like this. If it's more of a hip hop episode, it meets this criteria.
They're trying to put meaning to it, but there is no.
There's never been meaning, but it's cool.
It makes us think.
Innately, what I would think is that hip hop deals with more rhythmic. It's words still like a book, but it has more to do with structure, rhythmic aspects of it. Is it snappy? Is it clicking? And for me, it's like. Not so much. So it's more like it's the ideas, it's the concepts, it's the characters, it's the story that kind of like it innately works on a certain level, but it's more like.
Well,
I love this. This is great. This is so great.
That's how I feel. Like that's how I interpret that.
Yeah,
it's
awesome. However you interpret it is correct. By the way.
Yeah, because it's just whatever it feels more like to you.
I would think like. The Man Who Killed Batman or Joker Fish would be more hip hop for me because it's like it snaps, it's crisp, the timing is like it kind of like everything is kind of flowing really strong and it's it
has a good flow,
even with that weird piano score, music. It has nothing to do with music. It has to do with the show itself,
and we wanted to like specify whenever we started doing this of. Book doesn't mean bad; it just means book.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And hip hop doesn't mean good; it just means hip hop.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm glad you understand. Okay.
Yeah, you get it.
Yeah, sure.
Now, Brian, do you put this on your top 10? We've been creating a top 10 as we go, so things will get kicked off or added on or whatever. By the end of everything, we'll have our top 10 individual DCAU episode lists. But we've set rules for ourselves that like if we get what was it like a maximum of like 5 shuffles or something.
Yeah.
So if we find ourselves in a situation where I really want to put this one on the list, but I don't want to knock this one off, you can shuffle it around. But we've only given ourselves that many shuffles, so we have to be very careful because we can never rearrange it or whatever. So
yeah.
I don't. Does this fall on your list, Brian?
There's a lot I like about this episode.
Dan's already shaking his head. No.
I really, as like a long time, like I've always been since I was a kid, I've always been a fan of James Bond stuff. So this like actually really strikes a chord with me. I don't think it has all the elements that like really grab me in the storylines that really grab me. So giving an honorable mention, not going to put it on the top 10.
Bingo, same here.
I was going to say, actually, so I'm not putting it on my top 10 either. I don't think we're going to put it on the bottom 10, which we've reserved for the worst episodes.
But it's not even like 12 or 13. It's like, somewhere maybe top 20.
I would absolutely put it top 20. And I'm episode 50 in. It is absolutely top 20. Yeah. I'd honestly say, like, if we had a top 15, I think it would be on there.
Okay. Well, so the funny part about this to me, Dan, is that we've had 2 guests on prior to you, and because default this would go on their top 10 list, I have to put Zatanna on your top 10 list because that's all you have so far. So I'm sorry about this.
Absolutely. It's like, would you no other show exists yet.
Yeah.
So,
would you? We can give you this one bit of
the caveat. Yeah.
Well, what's the word? Like this one bit of levity. Would you like to assign it a number on your top 10? Because if you don't like it, you could put it on. Even though you'd only have one, you could still put it at number 10 if you'd like.
Oh, absolutely. We have nowhere else to go but up.
Yeah, I like how this was such like a coincidental, like, episode 50, Dan Riba directed, first like big guest star, blah blah blah, and then you're just like, I hate this. I don't like
and I tell you what, I thank you. This is a really good thing for me because I get to see it through other eyes, and I also get to take off my director goggles and actually like see it from, am I being too nitpicky about the plane stuff? Because I mean,
no, never.
I can't imagine watching that show and not being annoyed by people walking around on that wing and not feeling
somehow until you mentioned it.
Are the people who did this idiots? Do they know how science works? And like, yeah, we kind of do, but we were stuck. This was the story. It's not a blimp.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to quote James here because when I also get way too much in like because there's episodes where I'm like dissecting the physics of things.
Yeah.
And I'll get like really caught up and getting really fired up, and he's like, "So it's a cartoon."
At the end of the day, it's a cartoon. Yes, we kind of like we pride ourselves. We're making cinema here. These are movies. These are little movies, and some of them are just cartoons, and it's okay. It's like cartoons aren't bad.
I mean, I'm always going to be somewhere in the middle of that because. Yes, it's just cartoons. At the same time, I'm hyper-analyzing every pixel of them on a weekly basis. So there's no it's just cartoons for me. I don't get to say that, but I do say it to you often. Well, it's mostly like when it comes down to like things that even if they were real would be new inventions. Like the Batmobile, we're mad about all the things that are not real mechanical objects in the mechanic. And yet this is a vehicle that does not exist. Or like the Joker toxin.
Right.
But the Joker toxin shouldn't have affected the cat in the Laughing Fish. It was just fish affecting. It's also made up. So we don't know how it works. So that's where I'm standing somewhere on the fence with that sort of stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, I get it. I get what you're saying. And I hope that this conversation is also kind of just maybe giving you a little bit more of a soft spot for it.
It has actually. So I thank you. I'm so glad I did this.
Awesome.
I always think, I kind of like put it out of my mind because I do know people like it, and so I don't want to like badmouth it too much for people.
Oh, sure.
And so I'm like, and I kind of forget about the things that bother me about it until I watched it again. I was like, oh!
Well, I'm glad that you did because I remember saying like, you might watch it again if you want. I mean, you were there and then you watched it again like, oh yeah, I'm glad that I did because now I can talk about these things.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, as I really like pushed things out of my head and then but again, it's like, there's so many little animation things that I would, those weird cross-eyed burst flames.
I love that shot too. He's like clapping as the camera's zooming in.
Oh my
on him.
Gosh!
It's the same like 2 frames over and
no,
over.
But he's clapping like slow motion. It's like this Herman Munster clap. And his hands don't even connect. It's like Alfred's doing pretty good. Alfred's got it, but it's like but Bruce is like, I forgot.
I never learned how to clap in Japan. My training didn't prepare me for this.
You know what's funny? It's like he's a Boy Scout and he's getting merit badges on his way to like you know, instead of Eagle Scout, it's like superhero.
But he doesn't have any life experience.
The last badge is like you know what shall I become? Oh, a bat. You know, he comes in. Oh, that's the badge. You know, I'll just wear it on my chest. And,
the big merit badge, the Batman merit badge. He just wears it all the time.
Wait, that's kind of cool, actually. I like that. I like
his
that.
eagle badge. Yeah. An eagle came through the window.
He was this close to being Eagle Man.
We did a video on how old Batman is, and we're basing that on his official biography for the new Batman Adventures. Says that he leaves Gotham at age 18 to go travel the world and learn all this stuff. And then in the various flashbacks that we haven't gotten to, we learn that he's now in year 10 of being Batman.
Yes.
And so there was a handful of other math in there that led us to believe that Batman was like only gone for like 2 years to learn all of this stuff. And so occasionally I'll think of that and be like, that's not enough time. But then in this episode, he's like, you walked up to my doorstep 3 months ago, and now you're leaving for Japan already. I'm like, yeah, that adds up because he has no time. He has to learn everything now.
Right.
But that also means that he was learning before he left.
I guess.
Yeah. That's what I was about to say. It's like, there's a libraries. You know, there are books. He can do the stuff, and he has a big mansion to practice all his martial arts.
Right, and I'm sure he's not just not going to school and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, right.
Or maybe he's homeschooled by Alfred.
Who knows?
Yeah,
you know? Alfred knows everything.
He's got a GED.
New video. Did Batman go to school?
I thought you were going to say new episode. Batman goes to school.
Batman goes to school.
I don't. That is interesting. I'm figuring maybe not. He's, you think of maybe like he went to some prep school because he's this rich orphan kid that they just kind of like, well, we got to make sure that he's, so he went off to a boarding school for the first few years after the tragedy.
Right.
Or he homeschooled with Alfred. I mean, it's like there's really, I don't see him.
That's where he learned all his culinary skills. Alfred and the Wayne Manor.
Exactly.
Oh, I'm glad I asked that question. Now I'm going to be stuck on that for a while.
I know.
Before we end the episode, we have to do a little cut here in the middle where we go to the future and we read emails from people and Podtower comments and voice messages and all sorts of stuff. And here we go.
We drop.
No, we don't, actually. This is James from the future again. This episode is really long because we talked to Dan Riba for maybe another half an hour, 45 minutes longer than this actual episode. I cut a decent amount out. Some of it was because he was showing us lots of cool pictures and stuff, but you can't see those, so it didn't really make any sense to keep them. So the mail section, we're not doing that this week because it's so long. It would just be an exhausting episode. I hope you understand. I'm so sorry. Thank you to everyone who sent in mail, though. We'll do double mail next time, so just don't worry about it. It'll be okay. We'll all get through this together. It'll be great. Yeah? Okay, stay yoppie out there. It's a cold one. And now we're back from the future. Here we are with Dan Riba. Smoothest transition you've ever heard. Next week's episode, I say the title of the next episode, and Brian tries to guess what it is, what it's about.
It doesn't usually work out well for me. Sometimes, often, I guess Batman's origin story. It hasn't really worked out for me.
I think you can get this one.
Okay.
The episode is called Robin's Reckoning.
Batman's origin story.
Nah, he's so close. You almost had
Robin's Reckoning. Mm-hmm. Does something happen to Robin before? Do we know about this?
I just said you were close.
Robin's origin story?
There you go.
For real?
Yeah.
That's too easy. Give me a harder one.
Oh, okay. Robin's Reckoning Part 2.
Oh. Bat.
Can I actually have some frames of film from that that were cut on the editing floor, and I can't tell you what because you haven't seen it yet.
I mean, as a film photographer, I'm stoked on this sort of thing.
When I got saddled with this responsibility when Dick left, there was like boom, here's a storyboard that's incomplete on your desk. Here's some layouts that you have to look at for
everything that was on his desk.
Right. So there's layouts from the What is Reality.
Mm-hmm.
There is this board here. Oh, and by the way, you get to do the first pass of the editing on Robin's Reckoning.
Oh.
And I'm like, this was quite a thing for Bruce to trust me with, because, you know, I as far as he knows, I hadn't done this before, which I had. I actually did a whole season of Alf and Super Mario Brothers and other stuff that I'd sat in editing rooms and cut shows with editors with, you know, before.
Yeah.
So that was my first like foray into editing was Robin's Reckoning, even though I didn't touch the show. It wasn't mine. It wasn't. I had nothing to do with the board. I had nothing to do with the layout. I had nothing to do with nothing except that I got to like cut it.
I have final say.
You're like, oh, I like this little cell. I'm gonna keep this one.
Yeah. So seriously, not, you know, frames. You know, you snip stuff out, and it's like, yeah, this scene should be shorter. This guy, and you're like, stuff is like falling on the floor, and I'm like,
Yeah.
Like
The
literally,
cutting room floor,
yeah, say
yeah.
literally cutting room floor.
and I, you know, for the most part, you know, there's a frame here, whatever. There's nothing consequential, but it was my first show that editing, so I kind of wanted a piece of it, and so yeah.
We're going to close out the episode.
All
Thank
right.
you so much for being on here, Dan.
pleasure.
We hope to have you back in the future, especially I'm almost mad that you are technically involved with Robin's Reckoning, because I'll just spoil it. It's a much better episode than the one we just watched. And I feel like that I was like, oh, no, I can't bring Dan on for this one. He's not credited on a thing. And now you're like,
Doesn't
I
matter.
edited the episode.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I guess, yeah, it
No,
never
no.
really matters.
I mean, I tell you, again, he gave you a much better episode. I'll actually tell you a little bit more without spoiling anything.
Sure.
We were in the editing room watching it for the very first time. It was just like Bruce, me, and a few
Yeah.
other people. Like, we're watching it, and I tear.
Yeah.
I sniff, and Bruce and I, you know, Bruce, I see him kind of like sobbing, you know, and he's got like misty eyed, and we were both like weeping like babies.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting
without
one.
music, without anything, completely raw. It hadn't been edited yet. It's just like the raw footage, and we were like very moved by the episode.
Yeah.
Wow, I look forward to this.
Yes, you should. Yeah.
So there.
Another not spoiler. The Robin VHS tape.
Is this one of the ones?
It's a 2-part episode. So yeah,
Oh.
it's Robin's Reckoning Part 1 and 2 is the Robin VHS tape. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
noted.
But
All
yeah,
right.
So.
I'll say my last little spiel here. If you want to reach out to us like the fire hand at the end of The Cat in the Claw Part 2, you can email us at podcast@watchtowerdatabase.com. That's in reference to terrible ACOM animation. You can also send one single voice message, and that's it, to anchor.fm/Bat-Wagon. Leave us a comment on today's episode on the Podtower YouTube channel, and subscribe for new DCAU podcasts every week. New episodes of this podcast are out every Friday on the Podtower YouTube channel, as well as your favorite podcast feed and watchtowerdatabase.com. I have now said all of the things, and it's
Yay.
time to end the podcast. Thank you, Dan. Again, I really do hope we
you.
can bring you
Thank
on for something else in
Yeah.
the future. I'm sure
No,
we
it'll
will.
be fun. It
Yeah.
will be fun. I did do more of these.
Yeah, you did. This is the only direct
One or
episode.
two, right?
Yeah,
Nice.
Batman shirt.
Yeah. I actually have the crude shirt, but I don't like to wear it because it's getting faded. Like the eyes aren't as shiny metal. You know, they're like a silver thing, and they're fading through time. So
Oh, yeah.
That's so cool.
We should get a Jump on the Bat-Wagon crew shirt. It's just your name and my name. And Dan Riba.
And Dan Riba.
I do appreciate that because I try my best with the podcast to clue Brian into, like, you know, around this time this kind of thing was happening behind the scenes of the show, and that's why maybe this thing was happening or whatever. But, like, I feel like you've sort of broken the seal now of, like, Brian's understanding of, like,
Yeah.
the world at large during the production of
yeah.
Batman the Animated Series, and so I feel less like I gotta make sure Brian knows all the things whenever we're talking, and it'll be more like, you know, you talk about this stuff with me and Ted and Maddie all the time when we're chatting about the shows, but whenever just newbie Brian over here, but
Sure.
being like and getting to the same kind of Dan Riba experience was nice. I think.
Yeah.
I think so too. This has been awesome, and I love the behind the scenes stuff. It's been great. It's been great getting to chat with you, and thanks for coming to hang out.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. Yay!
But okay, thank you so much for being here.
Welcome.
I'm just gonna stop recording. Goodbye, listener.
Bye, everyone.
John, I hate goodbyes too. Love, Zana. P.S. Don't forget to write.